Explore the themes. Engage with the ideas. Challenge your beliefs. From the Shaw Festival Theater in beautiful Niagara-on-the-Lake, this is the Art of Ideas Conversations.
Hello, everybody in the Zoom room, and welcome to the Art of Ideas Conversations. I am your host, Warren Bain. I am the Interim Manager of Education here at the Shaw Festival. And I want to welcome you to the Art of Ideas, part of our Beyond the Stage programming in community engagement at the Shaw Festival. The Art of Ideas, where we challenge your beliefs, engage with our art. In 2026, the Art of Ideas continues to expand with digital talks, special events, experiential sessions, and the traditional speaker series featuring fascinating academics and artists engaging with the ideas found in the 2026 season. This is the launch of the Art of Ideas for us, and so somewhat of the launch of our season in education programming at the Shaw Festival. So we're really excited. I am joined by my colleague, Matt Rattel, who's doing the tech and is just sitting over there. You can't see him, but he's here. And of course, joined by our two wonderful artists who we're speaking with today, Philip Akin and Peter Fernandes. And gentlemen, thank you both for being here, but I want to introduce you before you introduce yourselves, starting with you, Mr. Akin.
Oh no.
Yes, sir. Philip Akin attended Toronto's Ryerson Theatre School, and in 1975, he became the school's first acting graduate, performing in the Shaw Festival production of Caesar and Cleopatra later. And first, you were the first one because your last name starts with A. You were the very first graduate. And that is also my alma mater. So there we go.
Wow.
Here we go.
What number were you?
2008, just a bit, just 1 or 2 years after you. He has worked in the Canadian theatre community for over 40 years. He is a founding member of Obsidian Theatre Company in Toronto and was the company's artistic director from 2006 to 2020. At Obsidian, he instituted a number of programs for young artists, including the Mentor Apprentice program and the Playwrights Unit. You might remember his directing at the Shaw Festival with Trouble in Mind, Gem of the Ocean, The House That Will Not Stand, and of course, this season he's going to be directing Ohio State Murders. But I also want to big up some of your accolades, Peter. Peter, we'll get to you afterwards. Philip. Among his many awards, in 2010, Akin was presented the Silver Ticket Award for excellence in his career, while also nurturing the development of Canadian theatre, presented by the Toronto Alliance for the Performing Arts. In 2011, he was awarded the Malroy Gilbert Leadership Award by the Professional Association of Canadian Theatres for his advocacy of Canadian theatre, particularly in the promotion and development of the Black theatre community in Toronto and across Canada. In 2019, the Canadian Theatre Critics Association presented him with the Herbert Whitaker Award for Distinguished Contribution to Canadian Theatre, and he also, in 2018, picked up the Premier's Award for Excellence in the Arts, among many other awards. Philip, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for not reading all of them.
Oh, there's backup.
No, it's fine.
Peter Fernandes, thank you for joining us. Peter, actor, director, illusions designer. He is directing Sleuth this year. He's also appearing in One for the Pot, and you might recognize him from One Man, Two Governors, amongst many others plays in your fifth season here at the Shaw Festival. He is the recipient of the Philip Akin Black Shoulders Legacy Award, and I would love to get into that and talk to you both about that later on in the conversation. Peter is a 3-time Dora Award recipient. You trained at the Soul Pepper Academy and have a Bachelor of Fine Arts from the University of Alberta. You're also the 2024 Neil Monroe Directing Intern at the Shaw Festival, and you were the Metcalf Foundation Artistic Director Intern at Crow's Theatre. We are here. Thank you, Peter, and thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me, and thanks for connecting me with Philip. Who's above me right now.
Well, and am I right in thinking that you guys just recently worked together? The last project you worked on was Fat Ham at Can Stage?
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be correct. Yeah, just 1 second. Peter, are your 3 Dora Awards for acting?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. We're gonna have words.
Words now or words later?
That's all I ever wanted to get when I started out in this business was an acting award, an acting Dora, and I never got one. So flying.
Then we're gonna have to put you in something.
Well,
I'll have to direct you in something.
I remember
Yes.
years ago. I think Philip, the first time I saw your work was you were in the last days of Judas Iscariot, Birdland Theater, in a
Yep.
cool found space in the Distillery District, when before the Distillery District in Toronto got really sort of swanky and cool.
Yeah. That was actually my second to last to maybe last shows that I ever did as an actor. Um, yeah, because I just finished, we did it, and then I went down to Stratford to do Othello, and then we came back and we did a remount, and then I stopped acting.
Because you were focused more on directing, or any reason in particular?
Um, you know, I mean, that's a long, long, tedious historical story, but basically, I walked out of the Tom Patterson Theater in Stratford where I did Othello, and I remember walking out of the theater on the after the last performance and walking up the hill to where I was living, and I just in my head I just went, I think that's it.
Hmm.
I think I've done what I set out to do. I think I'm good,
Well,
and that was fine.
there's some
I
so
felt very Trudeau-esque walk in the snow, except it was summer.
At what point did you were you directing and acting at the beginning of your career together? Or I mean, there's something interesting, Peter. You're making your directorial debut at the Shaw Festival. Philip, you've directed once or twice before. So,
I think about 6 or 7 times before, but what the heck?
I mean, what was your, as Peter's embarking on his sort of directorial debut? What was your directorial debut? What was that like? How did that feel?
Um, my directorial debut was a friend of mine calling me up and saying, "Hey, Philip, we're doing a fringe show, and do you want to direct it?" And I said, "I don't really think about directing." And that was in like 1995, and I did that. And then a couple years later, I did a summer work show. But the thing is I never set out to be a director. Um, Basically it was because I said yes a lot. There's a really great playwright called Joe Pierre, and he writes from a black male standpoint, centered in Scarborough. And I loved his work, and I was bringing him into Obsidian to do workshops and stuff. And he had productions of his plays, and we wanted to do a production of the play. And Alison Seeley Smith, who was the artistic director of the time, said no, this didn't feel right for her. Wayne Mengesha said no, this didn't feel right for her. And I said, yeah, sure, why not? And that's how it started. Literally because I said yes, and I directed Joe's plays, and that was it. You know, I don't know if it's positive or negative, but I've never been an assistant director. I've never taken a directing course. I've never done any of the things that I have other people do. Um, and yeah, yeah. So it was just from that, from saying yes.
And Peter, how are you feeling embarking on your directorial debut? I mean, we hear about actor nerves and director nerves. Are they the same? Are they different?
Uh, oh, they are the same in intensity. They are different parts of. I feel like I feel the nerves in different parts of my body and at different points throughout a show or throughout the process, I would have to say. So the beginning of this was really scary and exciting. You know, unlike, I guess, Philip, it was leading up to this was a lot of assistant and associate directing work and trying to find some way to connect my acting practice to my directing practice and seeking advice from Philip and seeking advice from Kimberly and TC uh, and Chris and seeing how to kind of balance those those two. But I think as the process continued and with the wonderful support that I felt here from the cast and from the crew and designers and all the creatives here, those nerves are slowly easing off. I'm sure they'll ramp right back up when we open. But but hopefully they'll settle. Hopefully I'll learn to navigate that if I am fortunate enough to be able to direct again.
Well, and I,
You're going to be there on opening night. Don't do what I used to do,
Mm.
which was, I would be sitting there and I'd be like, oh, yeah, you can get that. Yeah. And I'd be like shifting in the seats. And then people would accuse me of mouthing the lines.
Oh
So,
no.
and then,
I got a little bit, yeah, that way during rehearsal. During
yeah.
rehearsal, I'm just
Oh, just wait till opening night, bro. It's amazing. I used to I people say you seem so relaxed on opening night, and I used to have a quartz crystal that had a lot of edges on it, like a big crystal, and I'd hold it in my hand and I'd squeeze really tight, so it was painful. And I'd squeeze it, and my right hand was like rigid, and the rest of me was, "Hi, how are you doing? Yeah, great show. Yeah, thank you so much." And meanwhile, this is like a fist all the way through. Now thankfully I'm past that.
well,
I'll have
well,
to get myself a quartz.
do you still get nervous? Or do you still get director nerves, or what's that experience for you, Peter, Philip?
Um, it never changes in a way because rehearsal is such an intimate process and a personal investment. And then all of a sudden, be it dress rehearsal or first preview, then all of a sudden, all of that intimacy is exposed to people. And you don't know how it's going to go. You think you do, but you don't. And then the minute that there's a room full of people who've never seen the work, you now see the work again through their eyes. And so I'd be sitting there in some shows going, "Oh, oh hell, that part's coming up. How are they gonna? Oh my God!" Right? Because things that we've got accustomed to, be it um, just difficult things or robust language. And then you go, how's that going to land with a group of people who are engaging for the first time? So it's an interesting evolution of being intimate and personal and then putting that out for public consumption.
Peter, what are your thoughts on that? I also should say out loud that Peter's doing us a real solid. This is his Sleuth's first evening preview, and Peter is not watching his
I
show. He's
know.
talking with us.
I know.
Are you out of your mind?
I know. We've had matinees. We've had matinees all this time. It's our first evening. I don't. I'm curious to know how it's going to go. They're going to be fantastic, but it's just, I mean, as an extension of what you were saying, yeah, it's really vulnerable to. I love how you described it. It's just the intimacy of the room, and I have a small cast, and so it got really intimate. It got really personal, and so it's quite exposing and vulnerable to then share that with hundreds of people on a night. Or even during our first read, we had invited guests in that room. So that was really, really vulnerable as well. Uh, but, you know, I had a chat with Chris Abraham the day before the first day where I was getting really nervous and he had said, well, you're fact finding. You're just taking the information that you're getting in the room. What a great opportunity to hear it for the first time uh, outside of your own head and in the
Mhm.
mouths of the performers that you've gathered and fact find from what the audience response is. And so I've carried that throughout the process and throughout previews. As Philip said, some things throughout the process you make assumptions. You make assumptions on how an audience might respond, or you get used to how that lands in the room. You get used to the surprises, the twists. You get used to the laughs. And so, what a gift it is that a brand new audience comes in and you get to learn from that and you get to fact find. Uh, through that process. So that's
Yeah.
that's my experience right now in the midst of previews where yeah, from day to day it's changed, but some things have remained consistent. And how much do you take in from that reaction? How much do you let that affect your work or not? Um, how much you want to lean in or lean out from that is it's provided. I guess that idea of fact finding has really calmed the nerves a little bit.
Mm.
And what is your so before you go into the rehearsal room, what is a question for both of you? What is the prep like? Source material, research, like uh, both plays. I mean, Sleuth is pretty well known. Ohio State Murders isn't as well known. So like perhaps different approaches to each work. Philip,
Mhm.
what do you do? We've spoken before, Philip, and you find. I remember you saying once that you find a central image that sort of
Yeah.
becomes somewhat of a keystone for you.
Y-
Is that sort of how you approach every work?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this is kind of heresy, but I don't do that much research, right? Like, I am reminded of when I was in a production as an actor of Richard III, and the character playing Richard III spent 45 minutes as we sat around the table regurgitating all this historical knowledge about how Richard wasn't this bad guy and he was really a good guy and he didn't fight with a sword, he fought with a battle axe. And he just went on for 45 turgid minutes. And I just went, but none of that's in the play, so what? Right? You can There are things that you can lean on to come out to the audience, and then there's stuff that you can't. And that's why I hire a really good team of people who, like, the costume designer will do research, that they'll all do all sorts of great research. What I'm after is, what are these human beings? How can I make anybody on the deck a fully formed human being? And so that comes for me, first of all, from a central image. And I know the name Ohio State Murders doesn't sound like a good time. Okay, I get that. But the image that I have is of Sophia Walker, who plays Suzanne, um, dancing. And that's the image I'm working with. And from that opened up a door to how much movement, how much choreography can I lay over top of it? What does it say if we put in Wagnerian leitmotifs where there's a repeated action that brings in a new a thread throughout the piece? Um, what does it mean if she takes off her shoes and inculcates some of the modern dance that was being created and formed by people like Alvin Ailey? Like, what does that do to the play? I mean, and I'm already breaking the play down because it's a seven-hander that we're doing with two people. So it's already, a theatrical construct.
And you're doing it in the studio theater in the round.
Yeah,
The
baby.
the Philip Akin
Yeah.
specialty.
Yeah. Well, listen, I didn't expect it to turn out to be my specialty, but I do know how to work in the round a lot better. I mean, and frankly, it was people like Neil Barkley and Graham Somerville who really taught me a lot when I was doing Trouble in Mind, about how to work in the round, how to move around in the space, how to constantly shift your position in a rehearsal hall so the play isn't directed to like five seats on the south side of the building, and you've got to move around and experience it from different perspectives. So I learned a lot from those guys because those guys are really talented artists who know the space. But
Peter,
yeah, I don't do a lot of research.
Peter, what are your thoughts on research? I mean,
This
there's
was my
two
first,
feature
this is
you're
my debut.
yeah,
I
there's
was
two
all in
feature
on the
films on
research.
your play.
I had to. I was there. What if they ask me about this? I'm going to have an answer. I'd like to think, oh, no, I was pretty judicial about what I was researching. Start with the text. What are the questions? What are the facts that are in there? And then let that dictate the research. But because again, this is my debut, each factor, each question kind of went down a rabbit hole. But more and more throughout the process, because you start the process, well before any of the actors are in the room, and you're already starting to collaborate with, like Philip said, all these other creatives who are invested in the research in their disciplines, that then you start to focus in on where that information and that research is useful, and you start bringing that up in the rehearsal hall only when it's useful, because then when you're in the rehearsal hall, you've got these fantastic performers who have also done a level of research, and so yeah, a level of research. And so you just want to equip yourself, at least from my end, equip yourself enough to have a dialogue and a conversation, so that I'm not pulling from nothing. Uh,
The
so yeah.
words, I don't know, I'll get back to you on that, is a great way to get out of a lot of stuff.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah. I think maybe on my third and fourth, hopefully, director contract, I'll be confident enough
Well, it's
because that's
not.
something everybody's telling me. Hey, you could just say, I don't know. And yes, there were moments of that, and there was, of course, there I am going, well, back in the 1960s.
Peter, I've just opened a play like what is it, 4 days ago or something
Mm,
like that. And we did the dress rehearsal, and I watched it and I went, the ending doesn't work. I've got to blow it up. And so we had our first preview the next day. And so I went into, brought the cast in and said, okay, this is why the ending isn't working. So it has to be changed. I know I'm not supposed to tell you right now that I have absolutely no idea what to change it to, but I actually don't. And so I asked Sophia to get on the deck, and we walked through, from a point of view of, she said, what was, I said, the ending isn't propulsive enough. There's not enough drive. And so taking, words which had no direction to it, and then we talked it through, and we created a new thing. And I realized that probably, I mean, every other time I've had to blow up an ending and change it, just before a preview, I've actually known what to do. And so I felt like it was a big step forward for me to say, yeah, dog, I don't know, but
mm.
we're gonna find it in this next hour, because there's a preview audience of 450 people showing up in 3 hours.
I should say there were several, there are moments like that where I have to just, give it up for the team, the creative team, and also the crew stage management team, where there are moments in Sleuth where I went, there's something grinding here for me. I can't quite articulate what that is. And so every time that moment happened, it's there are these moments that are extremely fruitful, because it's
Mm,
all of a sudden all eyes go into that problem, and we get into problem solving mode, or curiosity mode. We just start mining there to find what that moment does to us, and what we're striving for. It's kind of a moment where we re-engage with why we're doing it, or the story that we're trying to tell. And
yeah,
so that's what I've learned through this process. You go, oh, those moments. It's an old adage of like, it's not a problem. It's
an
it's
opportunity.
an opportunity. But it really held true, because
Yeah.
what a great moment to then rearticulate why. we're doing this?
Yeah.
What was our gu- guiding light in this? What story are we trying to tell?
Yeah.
Even if
But
it's a
you
smaller moment.
but you know what gets lost a lot of times when people hit this point is the fact that you have to back up and understand that you can only get all hands on deck if all hands have been allowed to be on deck from the very first day. You've
Mhm.
had to build your compadres, your crew, what I like to call the ride and dies. You have to
Mhm.
build that. Otherwise, they're not going to be there for you. They'll be like,
Yeah.
"What? I'm sorry, I'm worried about this prop. Where does this go?" But if you've invited, if on the first day you say to everybody's got a voice in the room, right? Which is, I think, a little unusual. I mean, that was never the case when I was an actor, right? Stage managers, I mean, I've had to kind of browbeat stage managers into giving an opinion. And I say, "Well, what'd you think of that?" And they go, "Well, I don't have an opinion." I say, "Well, in this room you do. Come on, what is it?" Because the hierarchy in theater will sometimes dispossess a huge number of people, and that becomes part of the way theater works. And so you have to break it. So I know somebody just typed in it's collaboration, and then somebody will say the word agency, both of which I hate because I think it's power. People have to have power in a room, and they take power, they earn power, and their power gets amalgamated with my power, and we all work together to the same end, right? Because I always feel like if it's collaboration or agency, somehow I'm gifting something to somebody, and if
Mhm.
I'm gifting it to them, well, I can take it away, right?
Hmm.
But if people have got power, it's a different thing. Anyway, you know what? That's what it goes on in my head, and it doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. It just that's the way I see the best way at working.
Well, I think I mean it's making a lot of sense to me, but how do you establish that? Do you establish that at the beginning of rehearsals? Is there um, an opening talk that you get? How do you curate the space to work in?
Well, first of all, curation of the space on the first day has gotten to be a little bit more dramatic these days. First days of a show used to be a really exciting, joyful time. Now at many theaters, you do an obligatory meet and greet with the staff, then the staff leaves, and then, managing director or general manager and artistic director sit down for a half hour to 45 minutes to tell you how to be safe in the space and what the hotlines are and not to do anything abusive. And so at the end of that, you're now at 11 o'clock on your first day, and the joy has been killed out of the room, right? And so then where do you go from that, right? So I do have I have points that I hit at the beginning of every rehearsal, and one of them is um, to tell people everybody's got a voice in the room, particularly for actors in a way, because a lot of time actors will not at the end of the day be very open to stage management corrections during the run of the show. And so I make it a point. I say the apprentice stage manager, assistant, everybody's got a voice in the room, and and the stage manager is the only person who's going to see the show more than me. So when they give you notes, it's coming, through me. They know the show. And you do that deliberately. You sometimes, a lot of times, especially with apprentice stage managers, they've been taught to just be like invisible bunnies, right? Like, don't see them, and they just kind of like fritter. And I go, yo, yo, what do you think? Did that moment work for you? Was that good? Right? And then what did you think? And by bringing them into the conversation, I guarantee you they will save you so much. How many times I've had an assistant come up to me and say, Philip, if they exit there, it won't work because the quick change booth is up right, not up left, and the prop can't get. And I go, oh, okay, because I don't know what backstage management's going on. That's up for them to build it. And all of a sudden, I just go, oh, thank you, boom, and you change it, as opposed to them saying, oh, I can't say a word, and then you crater on your tech dress, right? So it's about that. It's about building your team in the best possible way.
I would say that there's, in what you're saying there, and I've been on the receiving end, having been directed by you. It's in action. It's making that question, putting that question out into the room, asking for the opinion, so that it's not something that ends on day one,
Mm,
which a
yeah.
lot of things can seem to just fade away in day one, because there's a lot of information coming to you during that day. There's a lot about what the process is going to be like. So you have to, at throughout the process, reinforce the ideas that you've brought in on day one. And when there are those moments where the questions come up, and you want to ensure that your entire team feels like they have the power to contribute, then you have to ask in the room after day one. You have to make sure that that's available to them, because sometimes people aren't going to take that unless you ask and you
Hmm.
you
Yeah,
show it. Yeah.
Mm. Well, and also makes me think of like not just in the room, but also collaboration between different departments. I think we sort of think a lot about the actor-director relationship, but what about the relationship director, lighting designer, director, set costume? Peter, I mean, how was all of that for you?
th- they're experts and so incredible. It's in moments where I felt the most nervous. It was so great to have a team that shared vision, shared the same excitement and investment in the piece and in the world of the play, because then you have all these experts. There are people in here who have a relationship to the mystery genre, well beyond my relationship to the mystery genre. People who have years of experience in their practice, that are an amazing resource to somebody who's making their uh, debut. And so an open pathway, an open connection to them was imperative to my process. And I would say uh, saved my butt
Sure. Yeah.
on many occasions. Saved my butt. And I have there's this moment where to speak openly about the rehearsal process, where I'm just scratching my head, but then to see the designers kind of come together, and oh, what if we move this motor and we set it so that it's right before the cue, and they're all collaborating and go, oh, okay, great. It's not just, they're all as invested. Everybody is as invested in even the smallest detail
Yeah.
of this world. And that, wow, what a gift. How verklempt am I getting just talking about, oh yeah, the position of this motor. That's going to be what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, if we call it just a hair, if we just change the tint just a little bit here, to have a team that's as invested in those the small things. Wow. Beauty,
Yeah.
beauty.
I was when I was talking to my set and costume designer about Ohio, um, and there have been some constraints because of the some of the changing factors in the studio that we have to be very mindful of in terms of set, etc. And I said, I just wanted to update you because we've been talking about set and costume for a number of months now. And I said, I just wanted to update you that there's going to be a lot of movement, probably moving into some choreography. And Alexis Milligan, who's doing the movement for us, uh, said, what's her wardrobe like? Because, when if she raises her arm up, like, is it going to untuck her blouse? And so I went to, because why would I know that? Right? So I went and I talked to Melanie McNeil, who's the designer, and I said, "So we're just concerned about that." She said, "Oh no, Philip, it's fine. I'd already decided that her blouse was going to be attached to her undergarments in such a way that there was movement, but it would never become untucked." And that's how a designer saves you. Because if you don't see that costume until tech dress and it's a mess, you're a mess. You're in trouble. Because the departments, by time I get to my tech dress, the department is 90% gone, right? So yeah, I mean, I I think, and this goes back to your very first question in a way about an idea and an image. What I've started to do over the last few years and last number of shows, and Peter will remember this, that months before, I will send out what I call a creative concept email.
Hmm.
And it's just my ideas. It's sort of the themes that are there. And people who've worked with me know that my ideas, I put them out. It's not for them to be replicated exactly like I said. It's that there's a philosophical core to the idea that I want them to think about. And so I send that out for Fat Ham. I think it went out in the summer, like June or July. And so all of a sudden, it engages everybody's imagination from then. They don't have to think a lot about it, but it's in the back of their head. Because a lot of a lot of times I remember as an actor, and you'd walk in on the first day of rehearsal and you'd go, "Oh, this is set in 1939 now? I'm
Mm.
doing what?" Because you would find out on the day what it was you were doing. And I always thought that was a waste of a lot of brain power and a lot of intelligence.
I want to make
Incredibly
sure.
helpful. Incredibly helpful though the that discussion. And it's something that I'll carry with my directing practice because time, even in the back of the mind, the seed of an idea, time with that idea back there is so valuable.
Yeah,
And so often now you if you plant that seed just in the on the first day, you've only got outside of the Shaw Festival, you've only got 2 weeks. Imagine if that's an idea is percolating back in your mind for a longer period of time, and what can stem out of that. So it's incredibly valuable. I found that for Fat
yeah.
Ham. Yeah.
Don't sign 2-week rehearsal contracts, Peter. Don't do
Okay.
it. Just don't do it.
Let's
Three and a
say.
I
half
know it's a
is
lot.
3.5 is the least you should go
Yeah.
for. Trust
Yeah.
me.
Well, Philip, I remember years ago at an equity AGM in Toronto at the Factory Theatre. I was sitting in the orchestra. You were in the balcony, and there was a discussion about how long a rehearsal time should be. And I remember, I'll never forget. I remember you standing up and saying, "Look, if people are just going to direct it in the last week, it can be 5 weeks, it can be 2 weeks. Directors have to know how to plan the rehearsal to be able to use the rehearsal time effectively. So, what are we talking about here?" He said something to that effect.
That
And
sounds like something I'd say.
it was awesome. It was great. But there was something about it's like, do we need more time or do we need more focus? You sort of really, I mean,
Well,
what are your thoughts on that?
well, I think Canadian theater is much like Pavlov's dog. We've been trained to get it up and gone in like 3 weeks. We're trained. I think there are very few actors or directors could take a 5-week process and not just extend their 3-week process, right? They don't we don't know how to work. I mean, being at Shaw helps. It's a very different kind of thing. But you've got to all of this has got to be based on some sort of um, practice and philosophy and artistic goals. So, for example, when you do a rehearsal process apart from a rep theater, you get to your dress rehearsal, and let's say you have 4 previews. On each of those 4 previews, including your opening, that's 5 days, you have a 5 hour rehearsal block available to you in the afternoon. So that, in this case, 25 hours. I don't think I've used any more on any show, any more than 8 of those 25 hours. Why? Because philosophically, I feel that a preview is about a time of me letting go and the actors solidifying their critical path to do the show the best they can. And they can't do it if I got my hands all over them all the time, right? So we hit dress rehearsal, I'm starting to let go. Trust me, I talk more on the first day than I do after we start to preview. I just come in and say, yeah, that's not so good. Yeah, great, good energy, keep the weave together. Thanks, good night. Right? That's it. But you've got a plot for that. I know many directors whose actors, and I remember this so clearly as an actor, coming to opening night just like a horse that is blown, right? Like just about ready to fall over and die. You're so tired. I've worked for companies that would do a student matinee on the afternoon of your opening.
Yeah.
And when it was a 3 hour show,
Ooh.
right? That whole thing of grinding and grinding. And I went, this is crazy. Surely it's better to have a group of actors who are rested and energized and ready to go, as opposed to people who are just dragging. And when they're dragging, the only thing to get them through that performance is adrenaline. And that's why your opening night performances are usually A, crap, and B, not the show you work 3.5 weeks to build. It's an adrenaline show. And I go, that seems pointless. So philosophically, if you believe any of that as a director, then you've got to change your practice to say, how do I shape things to get me to where I want to go? And I'm talking like this is easy peasy, and it isn't. It's years of me doing stuff, right? So look, Peter's doing his first show, bless. And I'm coming down to do like what, show 70. So obviously we've got different factors. But what I try in these conversations is to say, what's the worthwhile benefit for me and for Peter is how are you shaping your practice? How are you shaping your process? Because then that guides everything. That was a nerd out, wasn't it?
This is why I love these. But I want to make sure though that we do. Well, let me read this.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Ooh.
The Philip Akin Black Shoulders Legacy Award.
Yeah.
The Black Shoulders Legacy Award was founded in June 2020 at the end of Philip Akin's tenure as the artistic director of Obsidian Theatre. This groundbreaking award was created to safeguard the legacy of support for emerging Black Canadian theatre artists that Philip Akin catalyzed. This is the first award of its kind, solely dedicated to the success of Black Canadian theatre artists, ensuring creators are equipped with the skills to be at the top of their professional game. The Black Shoulders Legacy Award aims to support and nurture young in craft Black Canadian theatre artists through financial support, artistic guidance, and national promotion. Peter, you were one of the first inaugural recipients. Before we ask you about that, Philip, I also want to read this.
It's got too much research.
That's it. That's it. You got to, if you're speaking to Philip Akin, you prepare. 2 things. The place where I will fit will not exist until I build it. That is Philip Akin quoting James Baldwin.
Yeah.
The next generation better kick my credit out the door. Then I'll know I succeeded.
Yeah.
That is Philip Akin. So what is it like to have an award like this named after you?
It was kind of devastating, because I knew 3 years before that I was leaving Obsidian, and then COVID hit. And so my final day, basically, I mean, the board got together and gave me a very nice token of appreciation. And I met with staff, and we sat in Withrow Park in Toronto in a big circle, socially distanced, except for grabbing a beer. And Luke told me that they had decided they wanted to build an award. It had no name at that time. And he had reached out to a lot of people in the arts and stuff, and was really, they started off thinking that they were going to get like $25,000. They were going to give $5,000 to 5 people, and that was the award, this unnamed award. And a few days later, he said to me, he said, "Yeah, what do you want to call it?" And I said, "I don't know." And he said, "Well, I've been thinking about the Black Shoulders Award, but I insist that your name be in the award." And I said, "Well, Black Shoulders sounds pretty good." And so what happened after that, I believe, is kind of a I don't know, it's a bit of a mystery, bro, because somehow between a whole bunch of things, we ended up with over $600,000. Um, the award is hosted by the Shaw Endowment Foundation. It's set up to run in perpetuity. As long as the stock market stays around 5 or 6%, we'll be good. Um, and it's fun. I don't, very rarely am I speechless, but like, it's just, it's profound for me, right? And the words, I noticed you used the word emerging at the beginning of that, and then you went to my language, which was young and craft,
Yeah.
because I think emerging is one of those terms that is meaningless now. I mean, when we started up Obsidian, emerging was 18 to like 20. And then every few years it grew bigger and bigger. Now it's like, 16 to 35, and you're still emerging. And I went to the idea of young in craft so that anybody could be of any age, but what they were going towards, they were young in craft. So if you were a playwright wanting to be a lighting designer and you're 65, you're just as eligible for that award to learn. So the young in craft part was, it's it's what I believe in, really. I mean, I often say this, that theater is a mayfly art, right? We're here and we're gone in 24 hours. And I know that in just a number of years, people will be getting this money and they'll be like, "Who the heck's this guy?" Right? And that's, I see this all the time. I will call people's names in rehearsal and they go, "Who you talking about? Bill Hutt? Who's he? Lane Coleman? Never heard of him." Right? Like, all of these, that's theater. And I think we have to embrace the ephemeralness of it so that we really give the weight and importance to what we're doing and spending our lives. So the fact that this thing will have my award behind my name on it and help people going forward is amazing to me. You know, I don't know, I don't know how many people here know Nahasayu Degans, who was in House That Will Not Stand With Me, and Nahasayu felt she couldn't sing. And she had a session with James Oakley in, this is what, 26, 24, had a session with James Oakley when he was at Shaw. And James said, "I think we can do something here." And Nahasayu got one of the BSLA awards and went to England and trained with him, studied with him for a month.
Cool.
She's in 2 musicals at Stratford this season. Now, this is somebody who 2 years ago didn't believe they could sing. So that's the kind of thing, right? Like that's the kind of magic that I hope can inspire young and craft artists. So yeah, pretty touched.
Peter, you were one of the inaugural recipients.
Mhm.
What was that like?
Uh, Philip has, at several points throughout my career, been instrumental to the trajectory of my career. Um, he was one of the first meetings I ever had with somebody in the community when I first moved to Toronto. He put me in my favorite musical, the first musical that I did in Toronto, and then has been there for me, you know, uh, as guidance throughout my career trajectory. So then to have the award that allows you to feed a curiosity, to know that you have support to go on your own fact-finding mission, which usually you don't, there aren't a lot of avenues to explore that and to get that support, was incredibly heartwarming. It was incredibly humbling, and it's the reason why I'm directing Sleuth. I think if there wasn't that encouragement and there wasn't that support, um, I wouldn't feel confident enough to take on a project like this. I wouldn't have had that seed to start exploring and start uh, mapping out my practice. And it gave me experiences that I think you could only dream of. I got to work in a room on Broadway. I got to help with illusions there. I got to go work in a room in the UK and design illusions there. And that experience allowed me to develop my illusions practice and my directing practice back in Toronto. So there is no Sleuth directed by Peter Fernandes without that award.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll kick my butt.
I'm not. No, no. I'll make sure that I'm bringing up your name. Okay.
So, Philip, what plays are still on your list? Like Philip Akin gets to work on any show he wants.
Oh,
What's on your list?
the house. Well, I was going to say the house that will not stand because that was on my list for a long time. I would love to do Father Comes Home from the Wars. It's only been done once that I know of in Canada. Peter was in that show. He was the only thing in that show that I would take to my show. Um,
I'm glad I'll be in your show.
um, I really love that work. There's there's shows that are being in the process of being created. Like a lot of the shows that I mean I've done Canadian shows obviously, but a lot of them have been American shows. Um, and I think people like Lisa Codrington and Kanika Ambrose are writing some wonderfully quirky, unusual perspective on life kind of theater. I directed one of Kanika's shows called Christmas Market, and her profound um, consideration of the Caribbean voice in Canada is huge. And what does that mean? And and so it's less about plays that I want to direct, but people that I want to be part of their artistry. But I guess the only other show that I would love to direct is a play called White Noise by Susan
Mhm.
Laurie Parks. Nobody in Canada will ever produce it. Everybody I've sent the play to just look at me like I'm crazy. And, I understand there's problems with the script. Okay, I get that part. I mean, it could use a good haircut, but there was something about that kind of urbane brutality in it that I don't know, I found really exciting.
Hmm.
And the premise of it was really exciting. But nobody else agrees with me, so Warren, that's okay.
Peter, what's on your list?
Similar to Philip, I think there's incredible work coming out of a young generation in Toronto. Part of my work at Crow's Theatre is engaging with new play development, and so that sort of engagement with work early on in its life is really attractive to me. I'd love to work with Kanika and on one of her pieces, and a show that has again affected me in several points of my career, including with Philip. I want to go back to Passing Strange. I
Oh
think
man, yeah.
I want to go back to Passing Strange. I think it's my favorite show. It every time I go back to it, something new comes out, and you dig into it at different stages of your life, and that's the beauty of the piece. It
Hmm.
means something to you at different stages of your life, and I think now that I'm engaging in a different practice, I think it would mean, or I'm at a later stage in my acting career, it'll hit me in a different way.
Yeah.
And so
Peter,
that's
Peter,
important.
two
Yeah.
things about Passing Strange. Number number one, I mean, I may have copied a huge portion of the Obsidian hard drive when I left, and perhaps in that portion of the hard drive is a video. And Luke and I used to regularly put on that video in the office and sing along to it. That's how much it meant to us. The other thing is, and I think you've got to do this for me to tag team with me, every year to a year and a half, I say to TC, yo, guy, how about Passing Strange? It's only a 5-person orchestra, like it could. He always says no, but if you jump on the wagon, the two of
I'm
us can
on the
do it.
Passing Strange wagon all
Okay.
day, every day. It
Okay.
is, yeah, all day, every day. So that is, that's on my
Yeah,
list
it's
in
it's
whatever capacity. It's
yeah, it's the only
such a
musical
beautiful
worth
show.
doing, really.
Well, we are at the top of the clock already, and I also want to say, Philip, happy birthday!
Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Happy
What a guy! I mean,
birthday.
one of you has a first evening preview ever as a
Yes.
director and is here. Philip's birthday. It's like,
I know.
thank you for. I hope you feel celebrated. Thank you both.
Thank
Like
you.
you're both just great guys. I respect your work so much, and like as
Thank you.
individuals, I just think you're wonderfully kind people. So thank you for sharing your thoughts and your
Thank you.
time with us. It's really appreciated.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me. It's been great. Take
Uh,
care.
Everybody in the Zoom room, make sure you get to see Ohio State Murders and Sleuth. Come check out the work that these guys have been working. Well, Peter's been working on, and Philip's going to swing by and work on that later on
Soon.
in the season. Um, Thank you so much for joining us at the Art of Ideas conversation. Please stay in the Zoom room, and you're going to see a preview of some more of our Beyond the Stage programming. When you come to the Shaw Festival and see a show, do something as well. Do an activity, take a backstage tour, jump into a class or a workshop so that you can appreciate the art actively, and you can join us in appreciating all the work that's happening at the Shaw Festival. Thank you so much. Have a good night.